Cobra.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Gin College Podcast. I'm your host, as always, John J. II. I'm here with my co-host, Cody L. Massey. Cody, how we doing today, bro?
Doing good, brother. Happy to be back. Took the weekend off to get married, but
this guy
first show as a married man. Yeah,
crazy married man coming back, a changed man. Happy to have him back. But big time congratulations to you, Cody, on reaching that next level in your life. And I hope you do well and succeed in your new life. And I know probably doesn't feel like a whole lot's changed, but you know, you probably feel change in a certain way, and it's probably a good feeling.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely happy to be married to the love of my life and get started moving forward as a married couple. But also caught some great football on my wedding day. You know, Wolverines got the dub. Watched Alabama fall. Couldn't ask for more.
Oh man, it was a weekend to remember. Lots of games. Very memorable. And, you know, it's just a lot to kind of take in and kind of, you know, give back as far as, you know, giving content. So today we're going to give you guys 5 featured games we're going to cover. By no way can we cover every single game this weekend that happened this past weekend for a recap. But we'll give you guys the best we got and cover the games that we think were the most important while staying within the time constraints. So let's just get right into it. Let's talk about let's see. Who do you want to talk about first? There's so many. It's
We're
like a
gonna
grab
start
bag.
with number
So
13, Arkansas, taking an L to Ole Miss, ranked number 17. 52 Ole Miss to 51 Arkansas is the final score. Arkansas scored as time expired, but opted to go for two and could not convert, and they got the L.
yeah, and it was a good game. It was one of your classic SEC matchups, and that's how the SEC rolls. You have some of these teams, they're kind of on the mid tier, I would say, of the SEC. You got Arkansas, the Razorbacks, and then you got Ole Miss. Obviously, they're going to be up there with the best of them. But I would definitely put the SEC into different tiers, and obviously they overlap and they cross quite a bit throughout the course of the season. But this game was a great game. You couldn't have really had a better matchup on paper, and really impressive stuff. I guess, what were your takeaways from this game?
I didn't know really what to expect. Both were coming off big disappointing losses the week prior. Arkansas losing to Georgia and Ole Miss losing to Alabama. So faced off the 1 and 2 of the SEC, the powerhouses. And yeah, I mean, this year there's really no rhyme or reason. Arkansas defeated Texas A&M, and then this week Texas A&M goes on to beat Alabama. So there's a lot of parity. There's no real clear favorite besides Georgia, as we've seen. But yeah, last year, Ole Miss quarterback Matt Corral, he threw 6 interceptions against the Razorbacks. So he made it a point in the offseason to say when he faced his defense this year, it was going to be different. And it was. I mean, it came down to 1 point, but he got the job done. He had 4 total touchdowns, and yeah, 2 were on the ground, 2 through the air. Altogether, between the two teams, there were 1,287 yards of offense. So it was just one to remember for the players, for the fans, both teams involved. It was something special.
Yeah, you're talking about Corral, with that clutch play at the end of the game. Lots of questionable things that happened before that. It's just one of those things where you kind of look back at it, and it's like, if you're a coach, how would I have played that differently? How would I have handled that situation differently? That's the beauty of college football, or really any competitive sport, is you can't really look back at those things. It could have been any single decision that you made that could have been the deciding factor, and just happened to be Ole Miss coming up on top, making a defensive stand. So it's a lot of things that can be considered, but at the end of the day, you really can't hang your hat on one scenario, one instance, because you're just going to be holding yourself back by looking back at it too much, and got to move on.
Yep. You can't be too mad after a loss like that. I mean, so much happened, and a lot of people are going to look at the decision to go for 2 and to come short instead of play for overtime, just get the easy field goal. But after he looked at the NFL this weekend, no, field goals are easy. I mean, there were so many missed field goals so it's never a gimme. And in a game like that, when it's back and forth, so many scoring at the end of the game, so much emotion, you just want to have confidence in your players and give them the option to win the game right then and there. And when you've been playing so good, KJ Jefferson, he's the quarterback of the Razorbacks. We've talked about him before. Big dude. He can pass it. He can throw it. I mean, he can run it. And yeah, the last play was an option, RPO, and they just got stopped. Ole Miss made the better play, and yep, they're the ones getting out of there with the dub. So something to see. It was great.
Yeah, it's something to see and something to consider, as far as, because what do? Do you just take the extra point and move on, possibly more than likely go into overtime, or do you go for the win? Like I said pre-show, I really do respect the decision to go for 2 and go for that win. Obviously, it's very high risk, very high reward, but depending on how you play that, you got to be able to live with the outcome of that. So they obviously did that. They got the short end of the stick, and it is what it is. I give them credit, though. I give Arkansas and the Razorbacks and KJ Jefferson, that entire coaching staff, credit for making that decision and going forward with it, even though it didn't end up like they wanted it to. So just one of those things.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's talk about Alabama and Texas A&M. This is going to be a matchup that you'll be remembering for a long time. Classic SEC matchup yet again, and standing up to the granddaddy of them all. It's almost like a David and Goliath scenario in a lot of ways. What were your takeaways from this game, Cody?
The Aggies, they shocked the world, and they definitely shocked me. they snapped Alabama's 19 win streak, 19 games they've won in a row. And Jimbo Fisher, I was having my doubts myself about him. They've lost the last 2 games to Arkansas and then last week to Mississippi State. And yeah, I was talking crap. He was saying that he belonged in the college football playoff. They got snubbed last year, and then they lost 2 games in a row, and I thought they were out of it. But I mean, even with 2 losses, then probably no chance at a football playoff. But for recruiting next year, you beat Alabama, you beat Nick Saban, you slayed the Dragons. So that does so much for your program going forward, and to get it after 2 consecutive losses, I think it just says a lot about Texas A&M. Their quarterback, Zach Calzada, he's been under fire. People have been talking about him and his ability to lead, and he got it done. He threw the game-tying touchdown with 3 minutes left that eventually set up Seth Small 28-yard game-winning field goal as time expired to defeat the Crimson Tide.
Absolutely crazy stuff. And this is something that I think we've been looking for as college football fans. And it's been a long time coming. Obviously, the mighty will always fall at some point. You don't really know when or to who. But to Jimbo Fisher getting this win on his birthday, it's just such a big win for Texas A&M and the Aggies, because it's really a statement win for their entire team, like you said, going forward with recruiting. And it's just really good for the entire team and for the entire landscape to see this happen to a mighty team like Alabama and Nick Saban. I couldn't help but notice on Twitter and other social media platforms that people were calling and just saying that they were so tired of Nick Saban. This is Alabama fans. These are Crimson Tide fans, diehard fans, saying we're done with Nick Saban. We need somebody new. And I was just like, wow, really? Just going to throw him away like that in one game, one loss? That just goes to show the Crimson Tide, especially their fan base, they don't know how to lose with grace, because they're not, to their defense, they're really not used to it.
Yeah, they're not used to losing.
But come on. I mean, you've been a powerhouse, a major powerhouse in the college football landscape for a very long time, and you're continuing to be, good and successful.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Saban is it's not really up for debate anymore. He's the greatest college football coach of all time, and it's insane that how his fans would want his ad after something like this. When you're Alabama and you are Goliath and every team is giving you their best shot every week, I mean, if you aren't on your toes and you aren't ready and you think it's just another game, you have the ability to lose. Nick Saban knows that, and he knew that this young team was susceptible, but they're Alabama, so we assumed that they were unbeatable, and obviously they weren't. All wedding, my family, my friends were asking me who I would take in Alabama-Georgia matchup, and I was saying Georgia, and it's looking good now, but I wouldn't want to play Alabama after this loss. They're gonna be pissed off.
Yeah, they're coming back with a vengeance for sure. I know even a lot of us too, especially the bettors, I think it was 15.5 or 16.5 last week. Ole Miss, Alabama, and obviously Alabama pulled away from them and won by a significant margin, covering the spread. And everything like that, and everyone saw 16.5. Oh, it's not really close. Might be a good defensive matchup on both sides to at least cover. People were hoping for Ole Miss to cover that game. I don't think a lot of people were even thinking of them to win that game. They obviously didn't. But I think if anyone was going to beat Alabama this year, especially early in a mid-tier SEC team, we expected it to be Ole Miss, not Texas A&M. And we were all
Florida early on, yeah.
Or Florida, right. So, I mean, in Florida, could have happened a lot easier than a lot of games that Alabama's played too. So that could have easily happened. But I think we could have even expected that a little bit more than we would Texas A&M, especially this year's team.
Yeah, I think just after those 2 losses, we kind of underestimated them. But yeah. Kyle Field and Texas A&M, I mean, Johnny Manziel days, they were known for the 12th man and just how electric that crowd can be. That was at 100% capacity. And the crowd stormed the field afterwards, which they got hit with a $100,000 fine. I don't know exactly why they did, and other schools didn't, but
really,
yeah, that's crazy.
Wow, $100,000 fine. Now, who incurs that? Is that the university?
Yeah. Well, it says Aggies were hit with it, so I don't know if it's by the NCAA or if it's by the university itself, like self-policing or what that would be.
I mean, you know what? You see it. One thing, you see it so much. You see it so much when you never hear about fines coming up. And second of all, you're beating Alabama.
Yeah.
You think there'd be a little bit of a grace period from whoever's giving that fine out to be like,
Yeah, I don't know if
it
it's a
could be
safety
Alabama.
issue or something like that, but
Maybe a
it's
COVID issue. Might be a COVID issue.
oh yeah,
But at the
possibly.
same time, the stadium's at full capacity. It's not like people are social distancing, anyways.
Yeah,
Right?
yep. So that's a whole nother can of worms.
Wow, that could be a podcast in and of itself.
That
Wow,
might be a
I'm looking.
G&T.
Yeah, it might be a G&T actually. That's a great G&T topic. I'll focus on that. I'll watch that as that develops, but I want to do some more research myself on that entire issue because that's interesting to see why that happened. But yeah, good stuff, and congrats to the Aggies for beating and defeating David, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Let's move on to Penn State, Iowa. Obviously, a Big Ten matchup that we're all focused on. That we were all glued to the TV screens or our game cast on our ESPN apps. Crazy game. I had the pleasure of watching this game, watch it all the way till the brutal end. And I'll be honest, I took Penn State and I did it on the podcast when Smitty was on Friday, and I had to eat my own words. I actually went back and re-listened to that, and I got to give Smitty some props. He said it's going to be a tight game. It's going to be a very close game, but he said he's going to take Iowa. So I mean that's big for his accolades and big for his resume.
Very nice.
And he hit on a big parlay this weekend too. And I don't know if I'm able or willing or allowed to share this, but he made some good money this week, upwards of $2,500 on a $100 parlay. That was cross league with the NFL and college football. So congrats to Smitty. He'll be on here soon again. And maybe even if we have 3 hosts where it's me, Smitty, and Cody, I think that'd be good for a show every once in a while. But let's focus on this game. What happened in this game that really, set it aside compared to, other Big Ten matchups or other close matchups as far as rankings go? What made this game different?
It was really exciting coming into it. I mean, Penn State ranks 4th and Iowa ranked 3rd. Penn State was actually a 2.5-point favorites. My lock of the weekend, I didn't publish it anywhere because, too busy getting ready to get married. But I told Seth that I was taking the over in this game, and it barely hit. 43 was the final number of points, and the over-under was set at 41. So I thought it was going to be a little more high scoring than 43, a little more comfortable I thought I would have been than that, watching it at the very end. But, yeah, that finish was awesome, man. Seeing Spencer Petras throw that 44-yard touchdown to Nico Regini with like 6 minutes left, but that was it to seal the deal when it was said and done. And, Sean Clifford, he went down with the injury in the second half, and Penn State was about to go up 17-3 as that happened. And from that point on, they only scored 3 points the rest of the game. And, yeah, that really hurts losing him. A lot of people are criticizing James Franklin because he didn't have a better backup quarterback ready to go, but his backup transferred to Kentucky, and now they're 6-0. And so he's being criticized really for not having a third-string quarterback. But, it's hard to – when you lose someone in the transfer portal to get a backup to come in, because they want a starting job. So that's a whole nother can of worms. But, you got to give Iowa some respect. And they're usually not right up there in the top 10 or even the top 5, but now they're at number 2. I don't remember the last time I seen that. But it's nice to see some new teams up there, like the Hawkeyes and the Cincinnati Bearcats.
Oh, man, Cincinnati, we'll get into them a little bit. But, yeah, this Penn State and Iowa matchup. This was a crazy matchup, and I'm just going to share my screen real quick, and you can see this graph here on the left side of the screen for those watching live and those viewing later, how it was such a high percentage for Penn State. I mean, you're looking at 8 minutes, 8.5 left in the fourth, and Penn State is at 80% win percentage, and then that significantly dipped. But I think there's something. This goes for the bettors. Something that you can never consider and never anticipate is injuries, especially when you get an injury like, and a good one is the Seahawks when Russell Wilson got injured, and then you got Sean Clifford getting injured, and then there's different things that were, because I had prop bets on Russell Wilson that night. It's blanking me who they played, but it doesn't matter. But
the Rams,
the Rams,
Matt Stafford and the Rams.
And I was rooting against Stafford hard big time that night, but that's another story. That's another can of worms. But to see this matchup and to see Sean Clifford take the injury and have to, basically count on a backup quarterback, that can either be a good thing or a bad thing. We'll get into that a little bit with a different game. But you have to be able to have a backup quarterback. And shouts out to Geno Smith. Talking about that Seahawks-Rams game, Geno Smith came in and did his part. It was just unfortunate how that game ended. They had a fourth quarter drive, 2-minute drill that they just couldn't convert on. But that's NFL. Talking about this game, they just didn't have, and yeah, I can see James Franklin taking a lot of heat. If you don't have a backup quarterback that can come in and succeed and get the job done in the fourth quarter or even for the rest of the game, no matter when, I said it once, I'll say it a million times. You don't know when your number is going to be called. So you have to be ready, and you have to have a man in that position that is willing to take on the task no matter how big and succeed. And that just didn't happen with Penn State. And hopefully they'll be building more depth within their quarterback position.
Yeah, going forward, Penn State, they have to go on the road against the Buckeyes. They have to face your Spartans in East Lansing at the end of the year, and they have to play the Wolverines. They get them at home, but yeah, with that, the injuries that piled up in that game, it's looking a little bleak for the Nittany Lions. The Hawkeyes, on the other hand, they're favored in the rest of the games, or they should be favored. There's not lines out for all of them, but they're all basically middle of the road Big Ten teams, and Iowa should cruise to the Big Ten championship on the west side there, which is another thing I want to talk about sometime, is why the Big Ten is set up the way it is, East and West.
Yeah, that's a really good that's a good topic to talk about. That could either be a G&T, I want to say G and tonic. It could either be a gin and tonic, a G&T, or it could be a podcast topic that we could talk about, because the divisions, the East and West divisions within the Big Ten is something that is somewhat new. If you think about it, somewhat new. We brought on Nebraska, we brought on Rutgers, we brought on Maryland and other teams, Northwestern. I think Northwestern was always in it. But there's some teams that were in it that are in different divisions, and they're split up for a certain reason, like you said, Cody. And that's a very interesting, topic, because not a lot of conferences. I don't even know if another conference has two divisions like this.
But they honor like that, yeah. Because I know
maybe
like
the
Big 12 is just best two,
big, but I don't think they have multiple divisions. I think it's just one.
And it's like I think it's staggered, like it's SEC West and East, but like it's Alabama and Georgia are on opposite sides, and it's just a lot more even, anyways. Than Big Ten East is MSU, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, just the top four, and then on the other side it's just Wisconsin, Iowa, and Northwestern are the three that always play for the championship.
Yeah, so it's very interesting how one side is more stacked up compared to the other, and maybe that'll change. Maybe the divisions will get swapped up, but then you got talks of the Pac-12 and the ACC,
all the realignment and everything.
That's something that could really throw a wrench in things as far as divisions go, because then you got to reevaluate the entire process. I haven't really heard much on that. I don't know if it's just if they just put it on the back burner, if that's a fluke or what's going on with that one, but. I know there was a vote on it a couple weeks ago, and they pushed the vote back for whatever reason, because they couldn't. I think the SEC had control of everything, and the other side didn't feel like it was fair, so they pushed the date back to vote on it. That's the last I heard, anyway. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what comes of that. But back to this game. Like you said, they're going to go on the road to Columbus. They get to stay home against Michigan. That'll be a good one too. Definitely. And then they go on the road to East Lansing. Obviously, they have some rebuilding to do, and I don't know how long Sean Clifford's going to be out, but the longer he's out and the longer it takes for them to pick up a quarterback that they can count on, then there's some vulnerabilities right there in the Penn State offense. I'm just going to say that right here, right now. So we'll see how they grow and develop and kind of adapt to this current situation, but it doesn't look good for the Nittany Lions right now. Let's move on. Let's talk about Michigan. Let's talk about Michigan, Nebraska. This is another barn burner game. Could have went either way. I actually watched this game with Smitty, and I was making a parlay, and I picked Nebraska. And he's like, really? He's like, why are you gonna bet against me? Why are you gonna take Nebraska and bet it? And he was pissed off about it. And I'm like, Smitty, come on, this game can go either way. Like, you don't have to take it so hard. And and I'm like, hey, we'll just see who's right at the end of the game. I'm like, if Michigan wins, then I'll just say, you know what, Smitty, you were right. Turned out being the case, and I wound up saying that, swallowed my pride, and told him. But I think you can even admit, Cody, that game could have went either way, especially late in the game. You can see how both these offenses were clicking on all cylinders. Things were looking good offensively, and they were finding vulnerabilities in both of their defenses. I guess, what were your takeaways from this game, and how did Michigan squeeze out the win?
Nebraska Cornhuskers have had a really tough start to their season. They've had to go on the road against Oklahoma, at Sparty's, and then they just take this L to us. And like you said, it could have gone either way. I'll admit it. Even at the end, we couldn't get it in the end zone. And going forward, if we want to win our big games down the road, that's something that needs to change. You need to turn Jake Moody for the Wolverines. He had 14 points, so he was 4 for 4 for field goals and then 2 extra points. We have to turn at least 2 of those field goals into touchdowns and get it in the end zone and finish those drives if we want to even think about beating Ohio State. So that's my takeaway from Michigan. Our rushing, we looked elite. Haskins and Corum are just everything you could ask for as a 1-2 punch. Haskins had 123 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Corum had 89 or so and a score and a big run to their last touchdown. He scored on a big breakaway run. But yeah, Nebraska Cornhuskers, got a feel for them taking the L at home. Adrian Martinez, he really opened up the offense, and Michigan had to survive 22 points in the third quarter, which disgusts me to see my defense let up 22 points in a quarter. That is unacceptable. And there was a couple 40-yard plus passing touchdowns, and you hate to see it. And other teams down the road are going to try to use that as a blueprint to beat our defense.
Yeah, there'll be other teams that face Michigan down the road watching this game as a blueprint. They'll be watching this as film because they see that. And hopefully Michigan can recognize their vulnerabilities and correct that. We look at McNamara, throws his first interception, and then, Adrian Martinez with that late fumble and then the field goal. But Michigan, it was crazy. That entire interchange was nuts. And to see that happen in rapid succession, mind you, too. Rapid succession has happened.
Every time I looked, I just got married, and every time I looked at my phone, I'm like, come on, Harbaugh, get a win on my wedding day, bro. Don't do this to me. But they took over that field, and they were pumped up again, just like they were against Wisconsin, and just had that place rocking. So, yeah. What was I going to say? As much props as I love to give Kenneth Walker, the Cornhuskers found a way to shut him down, and our rushing attack found a way to overcome it. So I just got to give our running backs props for that.
Give the running backs props, give the linemen props, because the linemen create the spacing, especially within the trenches. The linemen are creating that spacing for the running backs to have running room, and then basically it's all up to them. That's all up to what they can do with their feet and their legs and their jukes and their footwork. And a lot of that comes into play, but you need green grass to do that. And like you said, I think we need some, here at Michigan State, we need some more work to be done. We need more drills to be taking place for those linemen to hit those blocks, especially to create those holes and those gaps for these linemen, especially these running backs, especially like Kenneth Walker, to find that green space, to be able to run and find yards, to be able to take it to the next level and do what they have to do down the road. Yeah,
speaking of Kenneth Walker, that man, he's continuing his Heisman run, man. He's looking good, better and better. And with how all the other teams are kind of don't have big stars or big names, he's looking good. That 94-yard touchdown run I watched it so many times. I mean, it was awesome just watching him shake his teammate's hand, how quick those offensive players are. It's awesome.
100%. Yeah, we'll talk about Michigan State right here at the end, but they had Rutgers, and they kind of pulled away. That wasn't really too much to watch. But let's move on. Let's talk about Oklahoma and Texas. So the final score 55-48 with the Sooners winning. And the replacement, Caleb Williams, is the story of the day for the Sooners to win that game. And I was pulling for Texas in this game. Had them in a parlay, and they were looking very good. I looked up at my screen. They were up 11 points. It was somewhat into the fourth quarter, or it might have been late third. And I'm like, you know what? Feeling pretty good about this. They're looking good. They're playing at home. They're playing, inspired. And I wanted to see them come out with the win. Then I refreshed my phone, and Oklahoma's up a touchdown. So I guess, what did Oklahoma have to do? What did they have to overcome to win this game against the Longhorns?
Well, they've been under everybody's microscope for this whole season with how they've struggled on the road against decent teams like Nebraska, Kansas State, and just always finding a way to squeak out a W. And Spencer Rattler and his performance. Right now, he's looking like one of the most overhyped players in recent college football history, and he got benched. I remember I looked at the notification on my phone that he had got benched and replaced by freshman Caleb Williams. And I'm like, damn, it's looking bad. There's no way the Sooners are going to win. Texas finally knocked him off, gave him a dose of reality. And then next thing I know, like you said, the final score is 55-48. And it's just, I can't believe it's their second biggest comeback in school history. And I think that, I mean, it hasn't been said that Caleb Williams has started yet. I think it's ridiculous if he's not. And if he is, then the Sooners have a chance to just really breathe in fresh breath of air into that offense and really take off and start to dominate other teams and stop just struggling if Caleb Williams can continue. I sent John a graphic. It was like the offensive yards under each quarterback. It was like 151 for Spencer Rattler to like 511 for Caleb Williams. And that's just, it's quite a disparity.
Yeah, it is. It is. And, to see this quarterback come in as a backup, and this is what I was talking about earlier in the show, to be able to count on your backups and come in and succeed. And Spencer Rattler didn't get injured. If you didn't watch the game, he didn't get injured. He just got pulled out. He was struggling. He was, he couldn't get it clicking on the offensive side. And this is how quarterbacks get in. This is how people like Justin Fields retain the starting position permanently for the Chicago Bears, because Andy Dalton can't figure it out at quarterback. And that's just how it is. And that's, going cross league a little bit. But, comparing it directly to the Oklahoma Sooners and Caleb Williams and Spencer Rattler, that entire interchange, to see Caleb Williams come out and succeed and excel, this gentleman is preparing himself to be a starting quarterback sometime, and definitely prepare him to be a solid draft pick sometime down the road, even as a backup. Because in games like this is where quarterbacks are made. This is where athletes and greatness and, essentially Hall of Famers are made. Games like this, rivalry games especially.
Yeah, that's a Hall of Fame performance for Caleb Williams in a Sooners jersey for sure. I mean, and just being on our Twitter and messing around, I know Sooners fans want Caleb Williams as their man throwing the football.
And that seems to be the sentiment. You see that, and you see, the fans want a certain guy in there. This guy's obviously playing inspired. He wants to play. Obviously, he doesn't want to sit back and watch Spencer Rattler get the wins every week. He knew his number was going to be called soon. He knows that the days are numbered for the Sooners, and he wants to change that. But he wants to do it on his own back. He wants to put the team on his back and really, set them up for victory in a lot of scenarios. And he got that chance, and he seized the opportunity. That's the biggest thing. He seized the opportunity to do that. Came out, got a comeback win. And I can't say enough good things.
They showed Rattler's face after one of Williams' big touchdown plays, and he looked disgusted. He didn't even look happy for his teammates. So it says something about his character right there.
It does. It does. It says a lot about his character, and that's not something you want to see, especially as an athlete. No matter how hard of a day you had, you got to be supportive of your teammates and essentially your team. If you're disgusted, if you're pissed off because you're not out there getting the touchdowns, get the job done, you had that chance. You blew it.
You should just be happy you're 6-0, buddy.
You got to be happy with those wins. I mean, because without Williams, you're not gonna be 6-0. You're not even gonna have a chance. That could have been a blowout game. And to see that score as close as it was, I think it was 31-40, or no, it was 31-42 or something like that.
Yeah,
Longhorns are up 11.
The biggest deficit was the Longhorns were up 28-7, and
okay.
Yeah, that was the biggest deficit.
Yeah, so that was right in the first quarter. That could have been real ugly. So then it was 38-20. That might have been what I saw.
18 points, yeah.
So then it would have been 41-30. 41-30. That's what it was. It was in the third quarter.
Okay.
41-30, the 11-point deficit. And to see them come out, Caleb Williams came out and entirely changed the landscape of that game, changed the aura, changed the environment. And I could just tell by looking at my game cast, I had the Longhorns in a parlay. I'm like, this is the day for the Longhorns. They're a good football team. They got a solid football team.
Bijan Robinson's looking like a Heisman candidate too. That dude he had a great game, but he had a key fumble. But yeah, nobody can blame you for taking Texas. I'm happy. Let's just say this right now that I wasn't here Friday to make more bets for this weekend because my record probably would have got worse.
Oh, so you actually are happy. I thought you were going to say you're going to throw some picks in there. I'm just going to shatter my record.
No. I mean, Alabama losing, or I would have liked to take Texas for the upset. So I'm happy.
I mean, you're not going to be a bettor. You're not going to be a gambler and take Ole Miss money line. Or you're not going to, 9 times out of 10, people are going to bet on Alabama covering the spread. Usually, no matter what it is, you got more than half of bettors. They might throw. I mean, it's really not worth it for bettors to take Alabama in a money line parlay because you're adding, not even 50 50 odds points. You're not adding much in a money
Definitely.
line parlay bet. So, to see this happen, Sooners won. I still think their days are numbered. I want to see more than one game with Caleb Williams in the quarterback position. I have a feeling he might start on Saturday. I don't know. Maybe he won't. They might give Spencer Rattler another chance, but I think they're going to have a quick trigger finger aimed right at Spencer Rattler to take him out of that game because, this guy's already proved himself. Caleb Williams, he's already proved himself to compete at the highest level that has been presented to him yet. And to see him perform and to see him handle the pressure so well, I mean, you got to be delusional to not want to put him in the game against anyone.
You got to go with that hot hand, man. You can't let it cool off.
100%.
We're just going to tip our caps real quick to Texas wide receiver Xavier Worthy. The man tried to do it himself with the help of Bijan Robinson, but he had 9 receptions, 261 yards, and 2 TDs. So for a receiver, he was hauling it in.
Xavier Worthy, watch out for him in fantasy drafts and fantasy lineups going down the road. He will get drafted, guaranteed. This guy has grit and he wants to win, even if his team isn't allowing him to, or if they're behind, he's going to fight no matter what. So this is what we got to see out of a wide receiver. So I'm looking at Xavier Worthy. I really am. I'm watching him. So keep an eye on him. Props to you, Cody, for tipping your hat. I will tip mine as well, my invisible one. And usually I'm wearing a hat. Where's my hat at? I don't know.
The Gin College cap. We need to get some Gin College caps going.
We do. And we'll get into some merchandise stuff here in a little bit. But I want to talk about Michigan State and Rutgers. They pulled out the win 31-13 at Rutgers in New Jersey. Obviously not too much to talk about. Pretty dominant win. And, they're clicking on offense again. I got nervous against Nebraska because Nebraska and Scott Frost, they've been just having some bad luck lately. And that's really all you can really say about it. And you really can't undermine this Nebraska team. These Cornhuskers, they are bound to win. They are bound to do something someday. Maybe even not this season. But they are bound to do something. And I hope they keep Scott Frost at least for another season to be able to prove himself. And I hope they don't can his ass like they probably want to, and the donors and everything, they probably want to get rid of him. But regardless of that, he's doing his job and he's working really hard. So I hope they keep him just for the integrity of the conference. But, seeing State and seeing Michigan go to 6-0, that really sets up the playoff picture very well. And, you go and look at the AP polls. You can look at, obviously you got Georgia at the top now. You got Iowa at 6-0 at number 2. Then you got Cincy at 3 in the Bearcats. Oklahoma somehow stays at 4, stays at 6-0. Then you got Alabama at 5-1. I guarantee you any other team that's ranked number 1 that gets beat by someone that's not even ranked or someone that's very low ranked, they're 21 now, A&M, you would see, at least a drop down to the 10s, somewhere in the 10-15 range. But Alabama, since the sentiment is still remains so high, they're going to stay top 5. That's just the way it goes. Then you got obviously Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan at 8, Oregon at 9, MSU at 10. And there was a lot of pages on Instagram today that were releasing their own AP top polls. And you know what? I think the Gin Sports Network and the Gin College, page on Instagram should be releasing our own AP top 25. Because why not?
Yeah, definitely. Now that we're halfway through, I think we should start.
It's only released by broadcasters and everybody anyways. Why don't we release our own? I mean, it's basically all, it's all pretty much pixie dust and it's fairy tale shit. So we might as well create our own. And I've seen a lot today and a lot of AP polls that people are putting out have Michigan and MSU, right around the 5-6 range from 6 on in. And I think that's very appropriate.
Definitely.
I know, I think that we still got some teams to play. And I think a lot of it should be based on, schedule structure and teams you've played and strength of schedule and all that. But, I think right there, I think 10 and 8, that's just a little bit too low. I mean, 8's really not too bad, but.
Yeah, Oregon, Penn State being in front of Michigan, like I understand Alabama and OSU. I mean, it's not fair, but they are dominant teams. And if my Wolverines had to play either one of them, I don't know if I would bet on them to beat them. So I can give them that. But Penn State taking that loss, I can't justify them being ahead of the Wolverines, and I can't justify the Oregon Ducks being ahead of your Spartans. That's just not factual, in my opinion. So
exactly, and that's what I was going to get to. And I'm glad you alluded to that because I don't want to make it sound like I'm getting into the novelty of the AP polls. I'm not getting into the novelty of it. I'm just getting into the realistic, picture or the perspective, the realistic perspective of the AP polls and why they should be more carefully looked at because of these things, because of, teams that are 5-1 that are still top 5. That's not correct. You got teams that are 6-0, like Coastal Carolina, absolutely blowing teams out of the water that they're 15. Like, how much better
getting
can they do?
disrespected? Yeah.
How much better can they do? I mean, I get their schedule is not the greatest, but you got to give them and throw them a bone at some point. These teams are working their asses off to get into those top 10 ranking spots.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. It is what it is. But I don't want to beat a dead horse with this. It is what it is, period. So I'll get into the end of it. Cody, I'll let you plug anything you want to before I get into my last minute spiel, and then we'll sign off.
Yep, I'm just getting more and more excited by the week for the matchup on October 30th. I'm actually looking into going to that game in East Lansing with my wife. So that'd be awesome. I don't know if we're going to be able to make it work, but we're going to try to be there and watch the Michigan play the Spartans. I don't know what time the game is because it's not announced yet. It'd be awesome if it's a night game, but I hope it's a morning game because that makes it easier for me to attend.
100%. That'd be a hell of a game to go to. Unfortunately, fun fact, I will be in Mexico that day. I come back the next day. Me and the lady are going down to Playa del Carmen area to a all-inclusive resort. It's going to be a nice little getaway. But I will be tuning into the game no matter how hard I have to try. I'll be watching that game. So mark my words, I'll be live tweeting.
International viewing, international streaming.
Yeah, international streaming. Probably be in a Spanish coverage, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm brushing up on my Spanish right now.
There you go.
Yeah, so it is what it is, and I'm really excited for that game. Going to be a hell of a game, especially if these teams remain undefeated going into that week. So, I'm very excited for that one as well. Going to be a huge matchup. But finally, I want to talk about some merch drop in events. So Seth and I have been working on some merchandise. We're going to get some T-shirts out. I'm going to get some Color Rush T-shirts going, especially, and this is right on topic too. They're going to be Color Rush Michigan, Color Rush State. They're going to be GSN Gin Pros shirts that will be available to the public coming out very soon. We're going to also have your generic red, your generic black and white, consistent with the colors here over at the Gin Sports Network. So stay tuned for that. Also, we have events coming up. I'm planning a disc golf tournament around Thanksgiving. I've already talked to a couple people about. It's going to be a big event over here at Kitson at the YMCA on Pearson Road in Flushing. And we also got the Turkey Bowl coming up a little bit before that we'll start posting and dropping information about here very soon. But Seth is going to be drafting his team, and I will be drafting my own team. We'll be retaining as many players as I can. But obviously, as you know, full contact, full 4 quarters. It's going to be a hell of a day. Really excited about that. Going to be food trucks and all kinds of shit there. So look forward to that. Obviously, we'll be fighting for the Platinum Platter as we did last year. If you haven't checked it out already, go to our link tree and check out our YouTube channel. And you'll find the first Turkey Bowl where Team Bink absolutely annihilated Team Beeper in the first annual Turkey Bowl. So check that out. Get pumped up. Get excited for it. It's coming out very soon. So dates will be released as soon as they are recognized. So I'll leave it at that, though, guys. Make sure to tune into all of our social media for all updates regarding Gin Sports Network and Gin Promotions material. And we'll keep you guys in the loop. Stay with us and grow with us. I'll leave it at that. Thank you for joining us tonight on the Gin College Podcast. I'm your host, as always, John J. II with Cody Almasi. Have a great night.